And here we begin lesson 0.1b, talking about order of operations. And hopefully you remember from years gone by what this little acronym represents or stands for when we're talking about bed mass. And we should know that B stands for brackets. So anything inside of a bracket you want to calculate first. Sometimes you have to apply the order of operations within brackets, and we'll do some examples like that. E stands for exponents. So you want to calculate that repeated multiplication, and remember your signs when doing so. The next two actually go hand in hand, division and multiplication, and they generally happen in the order that they appear. They're kind of on the same level. Multiplication, okay, in order that they appear. And then A and S, again, go in hand, they're addition and subtraction, and we do those in the order that they appear as well, from left to right. Subtraction, okay, and again, in order from left to right. So you do your multiplication and division first before you do adding and subtracting, but in order from left to right. All right, so let's try this. Go to the next slide here. We want to evaluate. So this is all just straight adding and subtracting. And normally at this level of math, when you have two signs side by side like this, if you're adding negative into your life is just becoming more negative. So this I would actually rewrite as a -2 and then subtract a 4. And then if we're taking away a negative in our life, if we take away negative, we become more positive. So we're really adding 7. So for me, I think of this as a thermometer or steps. I've gone down 2 degrees, and then I go down another 4. So overall, if I start at 0, I go down 2 and down 4. Overall, I'm down 6. So that's based on those first two numbers here being added together or combined. And then we still have the +7. So we've got -6. So we're down 6 overall, but then we go back up 7. So we increase by 7. We're down 6, we go back up 7. Overall, we're up 1 stair or step or degree from the 0 where we started. Question number 3 here, which is our second order of operation question. It's straight multiplying and dividing. Now, order of operations, this line here really acts like this is the top is in a bracket and the bottom is in a bracket. So you can calculate this a couple of different ways. You can actually calculate -2 times -8, which is -16. Sorry, +16, my bad, +16. And then that gets multiplied by 3. And then on the bottom we have a -3 times +2, which will be negative, and 3 times 2 is 6. 16 times 3, or 3 groups of 16, I think that's 48. 32 plus 16, yeah, 48. Oh, dang it, I don't know how I made that move. 48, and that's being divided by a -6, and then 48 divided by -6 will be a negative overall, and I believe that answer should be 8. So that's one solution, but I'm going to show you a second solution. I'm just going to change colors here to a red. A second solution could look like this. Now here's where that left to right, do multiply before divide, it doesn't really work that way. You can do multiplication and division kind of in the same level. If I'm going to multiply something by a 2, but then I'm going to end up dividing by 2, they kind of undo each other. So what I would do first with this question is I would look at how many negatives I have, and overall I have a -2, a -8, and a -3. That makes an odd number of negatives. There's 3 negatives overall, so I know my answer is going to end up being a negative answer overall. So I've got my equal sign and then a negative. The 2 and then divide by 2 is just a 1. They kind of cancel each other out. And likewise, the 3 divided by 3 cancels each other out. And you see what we're left with right here on the top? We're left with our -8. And to me, that's a lot less work. I didn't have to do 16 times 3 in my head and figure that out. Sometimes for college admission or university admission, if you have to do a math placement test, they don't allow calculators in some cases. So this is a good tool to know and to learn. Okay, heading to our next question here, number 4. Bedma says do inside the bracket first. So I'm going to break this down into small steps here. Inside the bracket, I have a 3 plus a 4. That gives me 7. And we have a 7 with a square. The next line, I'm going to work on my exponents. Now, I want to be careful with this because this -5 with the exponent 2 is not in brackets. So really what I have is negative, and the 2, the exponent 2 is only applying to the 5, so it's -5 times 5. Now, sometimes in math, we just use a little dot to represent multiplication. That dot's in the middle, it's not down on the ground like a period. So it's not 5.5, it's 5 times 5. And then we have a +7 times 7. Okay, so doing that, I'm going to have a -5 times a 5, which is negative, and then 25, plus, and then 7 times 7 is 49. Now it's just adding and subtracting. I'm at -25 degrees, but then my temperature increases by 49 degrees. Overall, my temperature would be +24. And that's the answer to that. Now, question 5 gets into some fraction work. We're not going to worry too much about these fractions, but we are going to do them. I'm going to do my exponent next. I'm not going to do it first. I'm going to do inside the brackets first. And to be able to add fractions, we have to get common denominators. So I'm going to times the bottom of the first fraction and the top of the first fraction by 4. And that will get a common denominator of 12. I'm going to times the second fraction on the top and the bottom by 3. So doing that, I should have 4/12. 1/3 is the same as 4/12. 3/4 is the same as 9/12. And when I add that together, I'm just going to keep that exponent piece till later. Add that together, we end up with 9, 10, 11, 12, 13/12. Okay, now we've done inside the bracket. Next thing is exponent. So I really have -3/2 times -3/2 times -3/2. Overall, there's 3 negatives. My answer will be negative. On the top, I have 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. On the bottom, we have 2 times 2 times 2, which is an 8, divided by 13/12. Now, when I'm working with fractions, we're going to invert and multiply. So I'm going to keep that first fraction as is, -27/8. I'm going to change the divide to a times, and it's going to become 12/13. I'm almost out of room here. I can do my reducing trick with the 12 and the 8. They can both be reduced or divided by 4. 8 divided by 4 would be a 2. 12 divided by 4 is a 3. If you don't know how to do that, it's okay. You're going to learn more about doing that kind of stuff when you do rational expressions in 3U math. And now I've got my -27 times 3, and -27 times 3 is -81. -81. And then on the bottom I have a 2 times 13, which is 26. So I'm going to leave that as an improper fraction. I think we've done enough fraction work on that one for now. Okay, so hopefully you understand how to do those things. I want you to try the next ones on your own if you have some time to work through those, and I will put your solutions up to them on the next slide.